I'm happy to say James Freeman joins me now from the Wall Street Journal. James, President Trump says the Iran ceasefire is over, but is this just another negotiating tactic, or is he actually going to, quote, finish the job, as he's talked about doing?
Well, we'll have to see. Like all of this process, the president said, as you had the clip there, the leaders of the Iranian regime are liars, cheats, sick people. I think that's an accurate description. If this latest flare-up leads to ultimately the loss of Iranian control of that strait or the ability to threaten that strait, I think that would strike a lot of people as a win, whether or not the regime changes.
Yeah. Well, next one, James, you have an op-ed out reading socialism is still failing. Now, Bernie Sanders and all of his socialist comrades in Congress want us to go full bore into socialized medicine, even though we are already paying $2.2 trillion in Medicare and Medicaid. But how is socialized medicine actually working out for the British?
Yeah, it's working out very poorly, really horrifically in some cases. There is one of the periodic scandals you have when you have socialized medicine, government control, bureaucratized control, turning doctors into mere bureaucrats. So the latest scandals in Britain in their National Health Service involve maternity practices and a number of hospitals, just horrific cases of everything that you always get with socialism: shortages, not the right technology, not the right staff in the right place at the right time. There was, for some reason, whether it was ideological or budget driven, there was a resistance to do C-sections in a number of British hospitals. Patients suffered, mothers suffered, the children suffered. These are hundreds of cases at one hospital and horrible results elsewhere. So it's odd. We kind of periodically have these situations in the U.S. where socialism seems to have a moment. But you look at the results, whether you want to look through the last century or you look in real time. There's also another scandal of government-run hospitals in Pakistan right now. Horrific, reusing needles that gave children AIDS. Just horrendous results whenever you have government control of medicine. And we should point out that Bernie Sanders calls it Medicare for all. But it would be worse than Medicare for all, because when you get rid of that private market that pays a lot of the bills at a lot of hospitals, that's the only part they can make money on. The quality of Medicare will degrade. The quality of Medicaid will degrade. So it's really worse than Medicare for all. But whether you look in history or you look in real time, the results are always the same from socialism: shortages, want, misallocated resources, and patient suffering.
My wife and I spent a month in a hospital in London. It was one of the best hospitals they had in London in the public health care system. It was horrific. The equipment was breaking down. The nurses had these little screwdriver kits because all of the monitors were always breaking out. They had to become mechanics to fix everything that was breaking around them. There were MRSA viruses going all around. People were literally dying all around us. We then spent a month at a New York hospital, and it was like day and night. I mean, it was just, we cried. We were so happy when we walked into that New York hospital.
Yeah, and you can look at Canada, you get the same story: socialized medicine, the lack of innovation, the shortages, the long waits even for desperately needed procedures or treatments. So I think this kind of periodic attack on the free markets we enjoy in the U.S. it relies on people not paying attention to the results that are happening elsewhere.
People were paying attention to Graham Platner, and this involves Bernie as well. He's now calling on Graham Platner, his once favored candidate in Maine, to step down. Writing on X, I've spoken with Graham about the best path forward for Maine. In light of these very serious allegations, I have recommended that he step aside. It's quite the turnaround from Sanders, who was Platner's biggest defender. Remember this? Roll it.
I suspect that Graham Platner is not the only American to have gone through a dark period. Given the fact that we have a president who is convicted of 34 felonies, maybe we have to do a little bit of forgiveness.
Maybe let's understand that nobody is perfect.
So I think when you look at politics in general, there are no saints in the United States Senate. People can argue about this aspect of Graham or another, but to my mind right now, we need allies in the United States Senate who have the guts to take on the big money that is dominating this country. I'm supporting Graham Platner.
James, is the stain of Platner and other Marxists, for that matter, going to be remembered by voters going into the midterms?
This is the problem for the Democratic Party. And as you point out with the video, the root cause is embracing socialist Bernie Sanders, who, as you recall, 20, 30 years ago when he was in the Congress, he was regarded as a weird kook by everyone in both parties. And a long history of how they got here, but this is the problem. All of this asking Maine voters to overlook the problems with Graham Platner. What were the virtues? All he offered was an envious rage against people who were successful and a sort of iron determination to tear up a lot of the traditions of our society. So it's an ongoing problem. This is kind of the battle for the soul of the party, where I still think there are moderate voters. You don't maybe see many of them on television, but I think there are moderate Democratic voters who don't want this, push to the extremes, and not just accepting people, obviously, with Platner, enormous personal problems, but this rage to tear apart what is still like very thriving society.
You use the word rage, and you say a really almost violent envy is at the heart of these socialists, and I just don't think Americans are going to buy it. But that's just me. We'll see you in November. James, great to see you. Appreciate you coming on.